Hey guys, welcome back to Big Shoulders, the video pod about all things Chicago, about the second city that is second to none. Today is just a real treat and honor for me. It's taken a little bit, and that's because these folks are so busy. But a little while back, I had the pleasure of interviewing Sarah Fada, who is one half of the 77 Flavors of Chicago. If you have been living under a rock and you don't know who they are to me, the premier history and food influencers in Chicago. And today we got the other half of 77 Flavors. Today I have the honor of speaking with Dario Durham, Chicago's very own, the other half of 77 Flavors of Chicago. Dario, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I've said this before in previous videos with you guys, the conversations we've had. I feel like you and Sarah are you are like this perfect encapsulation of the Chicago story. You being this homegrown guy from the South Side, she being, this sophisticated, badass immigrant to the city. You guys complement each other so well in the content and what you guys do. And just not just your content, your collaboration, your production, but just as people. And it's just been really cool watching you guys grow as this phenomenon. And speaking of that, are we going on? Is it 4 or 5 years now with 77 flavors?
Yeah, first off, man, thank you for that sentiment, man. I really do appreciate that. I know Sarah, she appreciates it too. We always just love the gratitude and how people have taken to us. So we don't take it lightly, and it's an honor always. Um, but no, we passed 4 years now. June was 4 years, so now we are rolling the ball on five now. So that's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember just kind of randomly stumbling on because I split my time. Those who follow the channel know I split my time between LA and Chicago, and depending on if I'm lucky enough to have gotten work or gotten a project, I'm not always in Chicago as much as I'd like to be. And so often, you guys in particular have kind of been my lifeline to keep myself grounded to the shy. And I remember when I found you all like over 4 years ago now, it's crazy,
Yes,
where
wow.
you guys were literally sitting in your living room talking about particular neighborhoods and food because things hadn't quite opened up yet completely from COVID. And, it just felt like I knew you guys. You guys knew neighborhoods. It's kind of become a trend now for people to come to Chicago and they never leave downtown. Not that there's anything wrong with downtown. They cover the same 4 or 5 restaurants that everyone else is covering. But I knew that you guys were the real deal because you guys were in places like Auburn Gresham. You guys were in places like Norridge. You guys were in places like, Humboldt Park, where a lot of, trendy food influencers just didn't go. You guys knew not just the neighborhoods, you knew the foods outside of deep dish and what have you. And it was
Yeah,
like almost like hanging out with friends. Like you guys were so personal. And then to watch this thing grow, you guys, going out on location and interviewing locals and going to spots again that weren't necessarily at the top of trend lists was just so awesome to see.
yeah, yeah.
Which leads me to I really want to get your input on this as a Chicago guy.
Mhm.
So much has been transformed with visibility on Chicago food, history, art, music, culture over the past 5 years alone.
Mhm.
Um, I'm kind of worried that maybe we shouldn't be gatekeeping a little bit more because the word is getting around about Chicago's again deep, rich culture, food, music, museums, art, architecture. Um, do you ever worry? Because right now, Chicago is still this beautiful, affordable, friendly hub of a city. And I know it
Mhm.
will always be friendly. Chicago will always be Chicago. But we are kind of under the radar still from like compared to LA or New York, which are crazy expensive and only getting more and more expensive. Do you ever get concerned that maybe we should maybe lean back into some of our, I don't know, less um, kind stereotypes to maybe keep the rent lower, keep the mortgages lower. What are your thoughts on um, the I don't know the possible downsides of Chicago really getting people learning about Chicago. What are your thoughts there, man?
I think you said it. A key thing there. Chicago will always be Chicago. So to me, what that means is the people that are from here are always going to have an impression on people that come here. And no, I absolutely don't think that we should gatekeep anymore. Matter of fact, want people to know more about Chicago. I want people to know what we have. It's shocking to me that a lot of people don't realize we have such a huge body of water
Right,
next to us, that we have a whole bunch of beaches, that we have all this culture here. And for me, I think it's a bit of a detriment that people don't know. And it has its pluses that people that we kind of fly under the radar. You know, we're always the slept on sneaker pick, which is cool, you know, but we think about what's coming for Chicago with all the buildings that's being built. We got a ton of new buildings that's being built here in Chicago. Ton of new firsts in America that's about to be built here. And that stuff needs to be told. You know, that
right,
stuff needs to be told. And when you have people that want to come to Chicago, that's just added revenue. It's like everything, you know, gentrification happens all around, you know, everywhere, right? And
right,
particularly here in Chicago, when you have, you know, people get afraid of, you know, coming into neighborhoods and changing it up for what it was. As long as Chicago is Chicago and will always be Chicago, we
right,
really don't have anything to worry about. You know,
right,
um, when you get these new set of eyes, like the last 3 years we've had NASCAR,
right,
that crowd on Chicago, which has been nothing but positive. You know, Chicagoans are gonna complain about traffic. We always gonna complain about, you know,
right,
we don't get our time in the park and blah blah blah. You know,
right,
you know, those things, you know, they're nothing but good. You know, we didn't hear any negative, you know, violence from the NASCAR event. Lollapalooza went on this 20th year run here in
yeah,
Chicago this
yeah,
past weekend, and you heard nothing but no bad negative things coming from that. You know, Riot Fest is right around the corner here, so we
right,
got a lot of these things that happen daily, you know, especially in the summertime, you know, all the street fests, you don't hear
oh,
crazy things happening. And that is culture that needs to be talked about, you know. And I know I'm giving a long winded answer, but I talk about this a lot. You know, I'm passionate about, like, you know, what kind of exposure Chicago gets. And it's vital to who we are. You know, I mean, Chicago is a pillar, the heartbeat of America, really. When you think about it,
amen,
lot of things started here, a lot of things came from here, a
right,
lot of people help go on to create things, and
right,
they started here in Chicago. So, you know, Chicago is always going to be that place that, you know, we're there, whether you know about us or not.
right.
So at some point, you're going to have to know. The world is going to have to know. It's going to come out.
Right. No, no, man, I agree. And man, and don't worry about long-winded answers. I know you're passionate about this stuff as much as I am, if maybe not more. So I love a long-winded answer. But it's not to invoke another influencer, but we all know him, we all love him. Dilla, Sherman Dilla Thomas, the urban historian. He was right when he said, everything dope about America comes from Chicago, and that's very much true. And I'm glad to hear someone like yourself um, feel like, we don't need to gatekeep. We don't need to start closing things up. We don't need to start keeping things hushed up because for me, just growing up, and again, we're not too far away in age. I'm a little bit older than you, but I kind of looked at it feels like the last 30 to 40 years of Chicago, we've always kind of been more internally focused. Chicago, LA and New York, they're great at hyping each other and repping their city. And I'm not saying that Chicago doesn't rep its city well, but I don't feel like we've ever had the need to project to the world how cool we are. We just did our own thing. We were
Exactly.
always sort of inwardly focused, doing what we were about, and that sort of that reinforces a very strong culture. Whether again it's food, music, art, what have you. I do think it's cool though that folks like yourself, folks like Dilla, and these others are projecting this out in a way that's very grounded. Not like, hey, 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 us too. It's more like, hey, you guys like dope shit? Check us out. We're clean, we're green, we're friendly. We like to work hard, we like to play hard, And it's just been really cool. I feel that Chicago, in terms of major American cities, in so many ways is the last discovery of America. Um,
Yes.
Someone like Anthony Bourdain, who was a
Yeah.
New
I was
Yorker,
just thinking about him.
and rest in peace. What a great guy! I feel like he should be one of the honorary patron saints of Chicago because he was such a booster from Chicago,
He
and
was.
he understood that Chicago, really, New York and Chicago are the only two true major metropolitan cities in the country. We're all connected by rail. We have massive food cultures. We have
Hmm.
seasons, and it's nice to see that sort of recognition come online. Not because we need recognition from other places, but when someone who really is about a food culture, is about really getting to know a people, someone like Anthony Bourdain has done that. I have clients out in LA that had never once considered Chicago until they met me. And
Yeah.
I'm a hype beast, man. I am Chicago's unofficial ambassador
We
to the
need
West
that.
Coast. Okay,
Yeah.
and these people have started to travel out our way and spent time in Chicago, and they are blown away. I mean, the amount of times they're like, it's so clean, is so clean. Your food is really good and not expensive.
Yeah.
They're really blown away. Or like even like I'm not particularly a drinker, but these folks are always surprised at how less expensive a cocktail is in a place like Chicago versus L.A. or New York. And again, they always come back to and the people. My husband and I got lost, and somebody walked us to the Blue Line, and somebody walked us to a coffee spot. It's like we've
Hmm.
never been treated that well in any city anywhere in the world, and so it's like I've always kind of believed when people give us a chance,
Yeah.
man, we shine every time.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago has you got some of everything. I mean, like here in Chicago, and I think the part of the reason why we don't have to brag or boast is because we know we got it. Like
Right,
that's just part of Chicago's ego, right? Chicago
right,
has this ego that we just know we got it. You know, you find out when you find out. But like we don't need you because to be honest with you, a lot of things run through Chicago, and in essence, we don't need a lot from a lot of other places. So
no,
you kind of have that thought of Chicagoans being that you don't have that thought of well I need you you need
no,
us you know what I mean like
right,
you really need us. Honestly, the West Coast really needs us because you wouldn't have any goods if it didn't ship through Chicago. So
sure,
it's that's the ego and the mentality of Chicago, which probably leads to us being so nice because we have
right,
no reason
right,
to be anything else. Now we do have a reason to kind of like not like the negative that we have and kind of have this chip on our shoulder because you
sure.
know the media will paint a picture, and
Oh yeah,
in today's age that's more vital than anything is having grassroots people like myself and Sarah
hmm,
be able to tell our story the way the truth is and not the
right.
media. So there's layers to Chicagoans and like our little region and our little bubble that we have.
No, I agree, man. And that's, I think this is sort of the beauty of social media. It's very easy to complain about social media, complain about the negativity in social media. But then again, I cite you and Sarah as examples of people that are taking their firsthand experience. And I think that's the most important thing. Anybody can sit, behind a news desk and talk about this, that, or the other thing. It's another thing entirely when the real people in those cities, in those
Yeah.
communities that walk those streets every day, that are that culture, are that fabric,
Yeah.
um, give their first hand experience and show people, no, this is who we really are. And
Mhm.
for as much as there's a lot of algorithmic nonsense that gets elevated, we are finally getting a chance, I feel, to tell the real story, and that's
Absolutely.
really been so satisfying. People
Absolutely.
again. You can tease out statistics and issues and problems that any major city has,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm glad that I can. It's like I've been able to say. I think it's over a decade now that Chicago, as a city, hasn't been in in terms of like most crime-ridden cities. We haven't
Yeah.
been in the top 30 for over a decade.
Yeah,
And I
right.
think that would surprise a lot of people. And the fact that that still surprises people shows that obviously we all have more work to do.
That doesn't, it's not a surprise. That doesn't surprise people. People know the real answer. It just
Right.
doesn't fit their narrative.
Right. Those who know definitely
yeah,
know.
yeah. There's a phrase that or saying that I live by. When somebody doesn't hear your side of the story, that means they already heard what they want to hear.
Right.
So, when people hear and like keep perpetuating that negative stuff about Chicago, even though the numbers are there, and we look at this year, we're already in a deficit when it comes to crime and things like that here in the city. Nobody wants to talk about that. That's not cool. That's not fashionable. That doesn't fit their narrative. So, yeah, it's
But
people are just
the
going to
tide has
continue to talk.
clearly turned. The tide has clearly
Yeah,
turned. I mean, we've been
yeah,
voted like the best big city in America to live in 8 years in a row. I think
yeah,
we've been voted, I mean, at least 7 or 8 years in terms of best, safest tap water in the country. We
yeah,
literally, as a city, sit above the largest glacial water table on the North American continent.
yeah,
Um, yeah, this is the beauty of. I like how you're framing this. That if you really look at the numbers, they're on our side. When people really allow themselves to talk to real folks like yourself,
yeah.
Sarah, myself,
Absolutely.
it's sort of like, oh, okay, well, this is nothing like what I was told. And
Yep.
the whether it's people from LA, I've talked to people from France, Australia that literally were here in Chicago for a layover
Yeah.
and decided, okay, you know what? Let's hop on the blue line from O'Hare and go downtown and just see. They get there and they're like, you know what? I'm not going to
Not
that
bad.
other place. And I
Yeah.
know people from internationally that have just come and stayed here, and we're just like, why did nobody tell us? It's like, well, we've been telling y'all for a long time,
Yeah.
but you've been listening to the wrong voices. So it is really satisfying to watch us shift this stuff. You guys especially.
Absolutely. It's fun to be a part of too.
Yeah, man. Well, let me. There's. I was supposed to start with. I have anytime I interview anybody, I have my arbitrary, what I call arbitrary Chicago questions, and
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong. I shouldn't say there's no wrong answers necessarily, but
Yeah.
it's something I like to do just to get anybody who's watching to get a sense of maybe what type of Chicagoan you are, and I don't mean that in good
Yeah.
Chicagoan, bad Chicagoan, just to get a
I get
sense of you. And it's I'll just roll them out. My first arbitrary Chicago question for Dario is Cubs or Sox?
you. Oops.
See, I
Well,
knew that one because I followed y'all, but people might not.
here's the interesting thing about that. So I'm a diehard Cubs fan,
Yeah.
always will be. That's not gonna change. However, last year, I've been a Sox not hater
Right.
for the majority for the majority of my life. But after they won the World Series, you had a lot of fans that were talking crazy about like, oh, don't come over here. And I'm like, no, man, at the end of the day, it's Chicago. So,
Right.
I
Right.
kind of went through my little phase. But last year, when the White Sox actually reached out to us and we worked with them, they were the first sports team here in Chicago to work with 77.
Dope.
And for me, that will always hold the place in my heart because it transcends sports. It's you literally help the small business do what they do. So they didn't
Yes.
have to do that. So the White Sox are always they will be 1B, but that's as high as I can give them.
Sure.
But I do like the White Sox, but I'm a diehard Cubs fan. Man, I got the championship trophy from when
Oh, I
they
know
won. Can you see it? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
familiar with you.
I
I
got
know
it.
how much you and my dad are peas in a pod. My dad is an absolute diehard too. And here's what's crazy, dude. Um, not that I like to amplify any rivalries between Cubs and Sox or anything, because I think it's all, again, to your point, it's all Chicago. If Chicago's winning, Chicago's winning, and
Yeah,
I don't
yep,
care if it's the boys in blue or it's the boys in black. It's the
yep.
Hawks, the Bulls, the Fire. I don't care. If we're winning, we're winning. But I literally found out 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, that my father, he was a union painter his entire life. He's now retired. He's the type of guy who painted oil refineries, painted buildings, painted you name it. He's the
Yeah.
type that strap on a mask and a pack, and they painted. I found out that when New Comiskey, let's just call it New Comiskey,
Yeah.
New Sox Park was going up in the early '90s, that he painted it.
Oh, wow.
And this is a guy who's
Oh,
an
wow.
absolute diehard Cubs fan, And I'm like,
Interesting.
did you maybe think to tell your son, who is a huge Sox fan, that, by the way, when they were building Sox Park, I was there with a crew of guys just, he's like, oh, by the
It's
way.
fun.
So again, the stuff you learn from your parents. But I love the fact that, despite the fact that my dad is in his 60s now, that I'm still learning Chicago history from him.
There you go.
And and not a smidge of, oh, I didn't say it because they're not the Cubs or anything like that. It was just
Right.
like, oh yeah, by the way, did I ever tell you? So
That's
that's
a
cool.
flex in its own.
I love learning that type of stuff. I love that the Sox reached out to you guys. Um, I love that you're a at least not hater.
Yeah.
From a Chicago sports fan to say that. Well, maybe I'm not a fan, but I don't hate them. That's
Yeah, exactly.
that's pretty great. Because there's the thing, I don't hate the Cubs. Obviously, my father and everyone around me is a massive Cubs fan, so I have no hate for the Cubs. When I remember watching that World Series in 2016, and what was it? It was the sixth or seventh inning where they were tied, and we got a rain delay, and I'm just
Yeah.
sitting there. I'm like, okay, look, just bring it home, guys. It's
Yeah.
been over a century. We have to
Yeah.
do this. And this is
Yeah.
not about parts of town. This ain't about what colors we wear. We've got to bring this home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we did. And
We
one
did.
of the cool, like obviously you and I, we lived through the Bulls dynasty of
Oh
the
yeah.
90s. And it's one of those things where you can kind of explain to people what that's like, but unless you lived it, it's really hard, especially for these kids who just have no understanding of what that was like. To then have that with, what was it, the three-peat with the Blackhawks. But the
Yeah.
most important one in recent sports history is without a doubt, and I say this as a Sox fan,
Yeah.
the Cubs win, and
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
incredible love, even from the South Side, for that was really awesome to see. Because I understand healthy rivalry is one thing, but it does hurt my heart occasionally when I hear kind of some of this tribalist stuff. I'm like, God, come on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's all love, and I love that. That's the other thing too, is all of this connectivity, social
Yeah.
media, and again, folks like you guys, because you're a South Side guy who's a
Yeah.
Cubs fan. I know
Yeah.
so many people that are North or West Side, they're Sox fans, and it's just what speaks to you. And again, I think you just let your love lead, and
Yeah. Yeah.
Chicago does that pretty well. Pretty
Yeah.
well.
I saw the Cubs first on TV, so that's
Right.
all I
Yeah.
need.
Right. No. Exactly. Yeah. Channel 9, man. Just yeah. It was
Yeah.
WGN. So
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. Second arbitrary Chicago question: Coke or Pepsi?
Neither right now.
Oh.
But neither right now. RC. If I have,
Okay.
if
Oh. All right.
yeah,
Boy,
yeah,
deep
yeah,
cut.
yeah,
Deep cut.
yeah,
I hadn't had an RC in forever, and I
yeah,
remember drinking it as a kid. Still not my favorite. I mean, I'll have it. I'm a diehard Diet Coke guy. My God,
yeah,
like, it's if I have a vice, it is Diet Coke. I try to limit
yeah,
myself one a day, but I know that Illinois is we're a Pepsi bottler state, so
yeah,
I'll take
yeah.
a Diet Pepsi, sure, no problem, easy. And last one, and man, this is one that I want to get into. There's a deeper conversation behind this question,
Okay.
but my third one is always deep dish, or I would say tavern style. But now I'm getting a lot of pushback, so I guess I have to amend this to deep dish or thin crust, pub style, party style, tavern style. Where are you at most of the time?
Um, Whatever's available at the moment. That's that's where I am because, and that's not even me splitting hairs, man. Like honestly, a wise person once said, "I haven't found a pizza I don't like." So,
Right,
uh, you know, and it's crazy that we have this divisiveness over pizza, especially in Chicago,
right.
between two very good options for pizza. And the
Yes,
reason why it's crazy to me is that historically, the two pizzas are only 3 years apart in history. We're
right.
talking deep dish pizza came out in 1943 at Uno's, and what was it? I believe in 1946. I forgot it was Gino's or Giordano's. They came out with deep dish pizza. So I mean, tavern style pizza. No, I'm sorry, Vito and Nick's. What am I
Vito
talking
and
about?
Nix.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Vito
yeah.
and Nick's
Well,
came
Vito
out
and
with
Nix, man,
the
they
tavern.
just celebrated their 105th. So I think
Yeah.
Vito and Nick's with the thin crust was first.
Nope. So Vito and Nick's actually had they didn't start out by making pizza. Vito and Nick's was just a tavern and just a bar that people
Right.
hung out in, and they had other food. It wasn't until 1946 when they introduced
Okay.
the tavern style pizza when because they wanted people to stay longer. So
Right.
very very like small detail that I think we shouldn't even be talking about verses because they're
Right.
so part of Chicago's history. And
Oh
if
yeah.
we're Chicagoans, we own it all. So
Right.
I can't pick. It's whatever available at the moment.
No, that's a diplomatic answer, but it's also a really well thought out, fair answer. No, I don't ask these questions to incite any hostility, certainly, or any an unnecessary debate. Because if there's one thing Chicagoans can do is they can debate and argue.
We can debate.
Woo! Oh my
Bring
God!
them on. Send them to me. I can keep on going with the facts. I got
Like,
it.
no, I'm with you. I think I crave the thin crust. But I like you. I'm not going to turn down a slice of deep dish. I don't eat it as much, but man, if somebody says they want to go to Lou's or they want to go to Giordano's, I'm not
Yeah.
saying no.
Right.
But Phil's, Pat's, Vito, and Nick's,
Mm,
all those thin crust places, and there's dozens more.
fantastic
One of the
pizza.
things that leads me to the next question I wanted to ask you is, um, there's certain Chicago pages on Instagram, Facebook. I'm seeing this now, and I won't. I'm not going to name anybody because in general I like the guys or gals. I'm not sure what his page, but the critique of the term tavern style.
Mm,
The idea is that tavern style as a term for our square cut thin crust pizza in Chicago, not really showing up more than 3 to 5 years ago. And that if you somehow call it that, if you call thin crust square cut pizza tavern style, you're not from Chicago. That's a huge leap of logic. Um, Here's what I've figured out about this, and you tell me because you're deeper into this history than I am. I think that the elevation of the term tavern style, because to your point, us talking about Vito and Nick's, they're creating that thin crust square cut pizza to keep people drinking in their tavern.
yeah.
Um, that term has been elevated. Maybe it was
Hmm.
always just pizza or thin crust. Cool, fine.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true. Thinking back to my childhood, I think that's probably the case. But I think there's been a desire to differentiate what the pizza that we as Chicagoans in general eat most of the time because the rest of the country, the rest of the world seems to think we only eat deep dish. And it doesn't
Hmm.
help that some of my friends and family on the East Coast seem to want to drill that into people.
Yeah.
Again, to your point, good pizza is good pizza. I don't care
Yeah.
if it's New York slice, if it's a thin, if it's a pub style, tavern style square. I don't care if it's a slice of deep dish. I don't care if it's a Detroit style, Sicilian slice, a grandma slice, Napolitano. Good pizza is good pizza. But I don't think there's anything wrong with calling our thin crust pizza tavern style, just so
Absolutely not.
people have an understanding of what it is. Because you hear thin crust, oh, you mean a New York slice? Well, no, I mean what we eat.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Is it people coming from the outside trying to tell us? I don't think so. I think it's us just clearly differentiating one style of our pizza from another style of our pizza.
Yeah, I think that's a good question because it's a taboo question. It's a cynical question and answer that we'll never get to the root of. But what I feel is that Chicagoans got punked into calling something and not accepting deep dish pizza because it is a
Mm,
very attractionable thing. You know what I mean? Like it's very rare that a place has a tourist attraction that's a food, right? And I
right,
think, you can't name a lot of places in the world that has a tourist attraction that is edible, right?
right,
You can go places and know they create something there and know that they have something to eat. But when you come to Chicago, deep dish is on the airplane menu when you say, hey, see this when you're in Chicago. And so
right.
I think Chicagoans have gotten punked
Mm,
into this belief that, the rest that we can't accept that deep dish is a part of our history and a part of our culture. It is
Sure.
who we are, because it's so taboo. And yes, we do eat thin crust pizza. Matter of fact, we've had thin crust pizza, like I said, as long as we've had deep dish pizza.
Right.
And the thing is, the term is been elevated over the last, I don't know how long, but I agree. It's been elevated as tavern style, right? And I think it's been used before, but now it's we're using it as a device to be like, no, tavern is what we eat. And I just don't agree with, not accepting that, we have a tourist attraction here that no place in the world has. And we do
Sure.
it better than anywhere. So I
Right.
think personally, Chicagoans don't get punked often, if
Right.
ever. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But I think this time, I think we got bullied into not accepting our heritage, and I don't think
Mhm.
it's. I don't want to blame it on tourism because it is what it is. How many times do we don't accept the bean as Chicagoans?
Right.
So much so that New York went and got a bean. You know what I mean? Like so, we don't accept Navy Pier being what it is, but University of Illinois was there at one point, so all these things that Chicagoans, the touristy things, we don't accept when really it's a part of our history. And
Right.
I think when it comes to whatever term you want to call it, both of them, literally, both of them are ours. And if you want to get technical, deep dish is more ours than thin crust. So that it's just something that
No, I
is
see what you mean.
sensationalized.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That in terms of allowing allowing ourselves to be taken off from self-determining and owning what is truly ours and what is authentic, and that it doesn't have to be an either or scenario. It
Right.
really doesn't have to be thin crust or deep dish. It doesn't have to be Coke or Pepsi. It doesn't even have to be, I know this will be hard to hear, Cubs or Sox. It can
Yeah.
just be Chicago, and it's
Right.
all Chicago. And I do, it's I hadn't been to Navy Pier in probably a decade
Mhm.
now, because yeah, maybe almost close to a decade, and had family that really wanted to go, and I'm like, okay, fine, we'll go, and we went, and man, what an incredible view of the
Yeah.
city and the
Yeah.
lake from Navy
Mhm.
Pier, and I was just there thinking, I'm like, okay, why do we not like this again? Like
Yeah.
it's stupid. And again,
Yeah.
that's the negative side of social media and some of this messaging is to sort of like get off social media, explore all of Chicago, all the
Right.
angles, all the sides, all the foods, and make your own choice. But they're in a bad view in our city. I don't care
Yeah.
where you're at.
Chicago has some of the, I mean, from every angle, and the juxtaposition of nature and technology, and nature and architecture is something that is you don't really get in a lot of other cities. You know what I mean? Like even if you go to some place like Dubai, it's manufactured, right? It's
Right.
it's not authentic. And Chicago is homegrown. We have a natural body of water next to us. We have a beaches that are
Yeah.
natural, and then as soon as you turn around, look behind you, you got a birth city, literally that had to start over from ground up. So I think
Right.
Chicago. We should own more of everything who we are. You know what I mean? Like because we're gonna miss out. You know what I mean? And the
Right.
problem, the danger
And
with
this is
that
the
is
thing. The you're sorry to interrupt there. It's because we're not missing out.
yeah,
We're not missing anything. We have it
right,
all. Like I
yeah,
remember when when I first had nieces and nephews from Northern California come to Chicago for the first time, and when they're flying in through, we kind of go past, over the lake, past the skyline, and I remember, I can't remember if it was a niece or a nephew, be like, "Are we near an ocean?" Like they had, and they're like, There's beaches?" Like they were completely blown away that we
yeah,
have sand beaches, that we have this massive body of water that if you didn't know any better,
yeah,
it's like, okay, yeah, you can go and swim in there, and there's no sharks.
right,
All this stuff. So, and I love the fact that we're able to rep all this stuff, and that the world, not just the country, but the world is coming in and partaking of it,
yeah,
and not just the pizza thing anymore. People are now aware of the Italian beef because of shows like The Bear, People are learning about literally the pizza puff. Like in my time in LA, I remember having a conversation with some folks, and we just happened to get on what was your go-to snack after school.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm surrounded by LA guys, and then it's me, the one Chicago guy, and it's like for me it's nothing hit like a pizza puff and some fries, and they're looking at me like what? I'm like a pizza puff and fries, and I realized they don't have pizza puff out here
No.
in LA. I'm like, oh. And so I had to
Yeah.
explain to them what it was. And now, of all places, Harold's Chicken actually has a location in Hollywood now where
Oh
the
wow.
people of Los Angeles can come and not only get Harold's fabulous fried chicken, fried fish, but they can now get a pizza puff. And now
Oh
that
wow.
like amazing delicacy of Chicago street food is now available. And it's just so exciting to see people discover that stuff, to share it with friends and family in places like LA. Uh, Again, it's been kind of cool that people were kind of like the last of the major American cities
Yeah.
for people to really be discovering, because in again the internet social media age, we're able to counter any nonsense, counter any flat out lies,
Yeah.
and give firsthand experience of all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
Hundred
sorry that.
percent. No problem. No, no, that was good. I was look the if we keep on, letting these tourists come here and see things before we do, that's how you lose a little bit of your Chicago
Right,
is when the tourists start telling you, hey, did you know you got this down there? All
right.
because we got in our head that we don't do it. It's like, hey,
And
you
and,
know,
and this and the good thing, I think maybe I've known one guy who's from Orange County, California, who didn't talk to me, and I've told this guy, I'm
yeah,
like, dude, when you go, let me, I will give you an itinerary of real deal food, real deal. You're going to get on the train, you're going to get yourself a card, and you're going to ride CTA. I want you to be in the real Chicago. And he didn't. And he never got out of like a small segment of downtown and just never got a chance. He did like literally ate at chains. It broke my heart.
yeah,
But that's like one in a decade. Everyone
yeah,
else has either done some research or talked to me or friends of mine, and we've been able to direct them. And so it's for the most part, it's been really good. I don't know
yeah.
anyone who's been a tourist who's walked away with a negative impression. And I think
You
it's
really can't.
because even if they don't get a chance to try the iconic food, which by the way, this brings me back to what you were talking about. Chicago, like you said, is one of the few cities where one of our attractions is a food, and I would not say just a food, not just
Yeah,
deep dish, but people know a Chicago style hot dog. People now
yeah,
know a
right,
Chicago
right.
Italian beef sandwich. Like it's weird. We have multiple
Yeah.
great, inexpensive meals that are literally the draw,
Yeah.
which is so
Which is
cool.
crazy because some places still don't want to say Chicago is a food town when really a lot of times you come here to get the food.
Yes,
Like you come
dude.
here,
There isn't.
you,
I don't have family.
popcorn,
I
pizza, hot dog,
yeah.
the Italian beef. We got four foods that I just named that you come
Yep.
here to get because it's different.
My cousins in Northern California are addicted to the jibarito, which, for
Yeah,
those of you who
right.
don't know, jibarito is a Puerto Rican sandwich created by Puerto Ricans in Chicago. Just like
Yeah,
the Italians created the Italian beef sandwich, which doesn't exist in Italy, but it was
right.
created in Little Italy by Italians, for the city. We're
Yeah,
That's another thing. Like we're so good at when people come from other places in the world,
yeah.
those cultures are able to interface with the city in a way that they can create things that are uniquely theirs, uniquely
Mhm.
Italian, uniquely Puerto Rican, uniquely Jordanian, uniquely whatever. But it becomes also 100% Chicagoan.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's a beautiful thing. Like,
Yeah,
culture, if anything, culture is food, but it's also music.
yeah. It's
And
everything.
I've never seen a city, especially now that I've lived as many places as I have, having lived a life, lived, across the country, lived internationally, traveled. I've never seen a city and this is one of the things I love about Chicago. I can be on the L, I can be walking down the street, I can be driving down the street, I can be anywhere. And if a certain song comes on, like some classic soul, funk, what they used to call hits and dusties on B103,
Yeah,
that's what I
right.
grew up with. How
Yeah,
people out of nowhere will start jamming and dancing on the
yeah,
sidewalk, in line waiting for donuts, at their table eating their food.
yeah.
I love that about our city so much. I haven't really seen that a lot of other places. Now, I'm not saying it
Right,
doesn't happen other places, but
right.
not like Chicago. I mean, you play
No,
any track by Earth, Wind, and Fire, any corner of the city of
yeah.
Chicago, you got a
It's
party
up.
on the sidewalk, man.
It's a party. Yeah, it's a party everywhere. Yeah.
I love it so much. Um, what else did I have here? I guess okay. Well, I guess we could close out with this. In terms of the growth of 77 flavors, uh, all of this incredible desire and just the reception that you guys have got on Chicago history, Chicago food and culture. What is something about Chicago, whether it could be a food, it could be a neighborhood, it could be a coffee spot, whatever, or, I don't know, a concept.
Mhm.
What do you think might be the next big thing for people to know about Chicago? What do you
Mhm.
think we need to maybe get eyes on for people who are either from the city and don't know, people who are visiting? What's kind of the next thing that you would like to see people get to know about our city, our people,
Mm.
if anything? Is there anything out there that's like I can't believe they still don't know about blank? Um,
Right, right. That's a good question.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that. I
No,
know that.
no, no, no. I'm trying to narrow it down, but I don't think I want to narrow it down. I think I want to go broad with this one.
Cool.
And the reason why I'm going to say Chicago as a whole, because when you think about what people know of Chicago, they know of the food, they know of the violence, which isn't a thing to be talking about. And they know of mob corruption, right? And
Sure.
so they know those crust level things that the media has beat over the head for
Yeah.
the last 187 years, right?
Right.
And so I think the next big thing that people are going to learn about Chicago is Chicago, because you know about all those things out of the name, but you really don't know about us dancing on the corner,
Right.
with
Right.
music. You don't know about the music. You don't know about the fun we have.
Yes.
And you don't know about what we do on a day to day. I say
Right.
this because a lot of people, you know, Apple News, let's take that, right? Apple News, if you have your phone, right? You
Mm,
go to Apple News, if you subscribe to it, they have a bunch of magazines that you can pick from all over the world, and all over the country. And Chicago doesn't have a magazine on there
mm,
that tells you about what we do
right.
fun, right? So a lot of people don't know that you can have a typical weekend on a Monday here in Chicago. People don't know that, you've heard of summertime shy, but you
Yeah.
don't know what we mean when we say you're going to be tired when Labor Day comes, when yeah, Labor Day, when that comes around. You know what I mean? You're going to be tired when summertime is over,
Right.
because you've had that much fun. So I think next thing that people are going to start to understand, and here's my backing behind that, is Chicago over the last 2 years went from 2.7 million people to 2.8 million people. And
Right.
if we keep tracking, by 2030 we'll have 3 to 3.1 million people, residents in this city. We
Right.
haven't had 3 million people in the city since the 90s. And so 80s, 90s, right?
Right.
So, when you start to see that trend happen, we're growing. The city is
Yeah.
growing, right? We've had an influx of influencers come to the city. We've had influx of business. People don't want to talk about that because they want to say that everything's
Right.
leaving Chicago.
We got
Um,
Google. I mean, we have
yeah,
quantum computing
yeah,
happening in the city.
yeah. So all that is literally there's a debate right now. A lot of people don't like it on the South Side, but they're building a facility on the South Side for that. But our rent. A lot of people haven't talked about this, and it's not good. I don't want to
Right.
put this as a stamp, but the rent has gone up. But what that means is the reason why rent goes up is because people are coming here and businesses are coming here, and we're
Right.
sought after. So I think the next thing people are going to know about Chicago is how we live Monday through Friday,
Right.
and and how we have fun. And that is, to me, the most beautiful thing is to for people to know that, hey, you know what? We can go to the Lyric Opera House. We
Yep.
can go have a great dinner. We can go back home, and on the way home, we can pass by a festival that we just might want to stop in.
Yep.
We can thrift if we want to the next day. And while we thrift, we can work and play along the way. And when we do that, we can, that Monday through Friday is so crazy that people wouldn't even fathom what's
Right.
going on. Like, when I think about the suburbanites here in the city in the outlying Chicagoland area, you hear a lot of people say, I don't want to go to the city because of the traffic. Imagine you missing a moment,
Oh.
one of the best moments that you could possibly have. And, I'm not saying that it will be, but just imagine missing the most fun that you might have
Right.
because you're letting traffic
Oh.
stop
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Like,
No. You nailed it, man. Chicago is fun. We are
yes,
so good at having a good time, and that's one of the things that family of mine from out of state have learned, friends from out of state, people visiting. We are really good at fun, and that's an
yes.
excellent point. That
Yeah.
people are going to learn about because Chicago is fun. Whatever you've
Yes.
heard, yes, you can go to the Lyric Opera and you can stop by a neighborhood festival in Portage Park, and then you can go and grab a coffee and some pizza at Beto and
Yeah.
Nick's, and then you can go, whatever it is,
All
and
over the
you will
place.
have fun. And don't let anything like. Here's the thing: you don't have to let traffic stop you because you can take Metra to the CTA, or some suburbs have CTA stations. So yeah,
Metro
that's
goes right through. So
absolutely. So there's really no excuse. Come have fun. Are you anti-fun? Come on,
right.
you gotta have fun.
I think a lot of people think that it's when you've heard so much and there's so much backlash between Chicago and the suburbs, that like forever battle
Right.
between the two. But to be fair, not to I'm going to pump Chicago up. I just couldn't live with myself if I know I was next to the third largest city in the country and all this fun stuff happening and I never visited because of what the media told me and or because traffic is crazy. Like, to me, yeah, I just couldn't live myself if I knew that you know I'm next to the third largest city in the country, uh, and I'm not going there because of what the media might have told me
Right.
and or traffic. Like it's and I you don't have to be here all the time, and that's the privilege of being a Chicagoan is that we are here all the time,
Right.
and it also causes complacency with us. But
Right.
I don't expect outlying suburban nights to do that, right? But I do think that it's a few times our summer, as short as it is a very long packed summer when you count
Right.
the day to day.
Nobody enjoys summer like Chicago. And
Yeah,
to your point,
yeah,
it's because maybe it's not as long as it is in places like Miami, LA, or parts of the South, for
yeah,
sure. But again, in terms of just pure moment for moment, hour to hour fun, no
yeah.
one beats Chicago for summer. No,
Nah,
no
it's
doubt.
it's it's unbeatable, man. Like, it is it's Chicago. Chicago, and here's the other thing. I think what's going to start coming out, and I kind of like started this last year, but I think a lot of people sleep on that fall winter.
Oh,
We
dude.
get a bad rep with the weather, and to be honest with you, not happy about it. But the global warming is a real thing, and it's changed our season quite a bit. And the last couple years we haven't gotten a lot of snow. We've had days, but even in some of those days, the snow is gone within the day or
Yep.
the next day. So our winters are very fun with or without snow.
Yeah.
There's so many things to do. So I
Oh
think
no,
that's also another thing that's coming.
no, I agree with you, man. I mean, my favorite time of year, and again, I'm a weirdo. Like, I mean, obviously, summer's great, but nobody loves fall, autumn more than me. My favorite
Yeah.
time in Chicago is the
Yeah,
fall,
man.
when
Yeah.
all the leaves, all that foliage changes. It frames all of our architecture. It's
Yeah.
all of our neighborhoods. You throw on like a jacket, throw on a sweater, your boots, get a hot beverage, and just walk the city. Like
Yeah, man.
my favorite time to just literally walk through neighborhoods, walk everywhere, going downtown to the Art Institute, just walking through and past the museum campus. Obviously, the museums are fantastic. There's no better time. And I tell people, I'm like, if you really want to enjoy Chicago, at the like summer's great, but it's going to be more expensive. It's going to be super crowded. It's also going to be, if you're not used to humidity, it might not be for you. But don't sleep
Yeah.
on fall in Chicago. After summer's over,
It's a
October,
beautiful
November,
thing.
amazing times, crisp
Yeah, man.
weather. Again, we've got our fall foods, and even Christmas time. You've got the Chris Kindle markets.
Oh my God.
All everything that is encompassed there. You've got Michigan Avenue is lit up.
8th Street. Oh my God.
Neighborhoods, all that stuff, and even winter. I'm finally going to do this. I have a niece and nephew that they really want to move to Chicago. They
Okay.
really love the city, and I've told them, I'm like, well, we're gonna do time in the winter, and I've got a cousin he's like, no, I want to come in the winter. I want to see what it's about. Because I've
Yeah.
explained to them, I'm like, okay, our city isn't gonna stop for
Yeah.
snow. Our
No, no.
city isn't gonna stop for cold, and we don't. Downtown, we've got that underground pedway.
Yeah.
Um, you just you suit up, you get
Yeah.
out there,
You
you
go.
grab your coffee, you walk, you do things. If it gets too cold, you tuck into this place, you warm up, and then
Yeah.
you're out and back at it. Like
Yeah.
Chicago doesn't stop. We have great
At all.
museums, restaurants, um, different venues and events, theaters, all this stuff that goes on all winter long. It goes on
Yeah.
all spring, summer, and fall. So Chicago doesn't stop, and the
Mhm.
fun never stops.
At all. At all, man. It's the greatest city in the world. Like literally.
Absolutely, man. And we can. That's I don't know how a better way to leave it than there. Man, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate what you and Sarah have done for our city. Again, the greatest city in the world. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I appreciate this conversation. Um, yeah, this is. I'd love to do this again, but just keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for all of it, man.
Man, I appreciate it. And 27 to the wheels fall off, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
We're
Absolutely.
going.
And yeah, well let's get together soon. I'd love to. I really want to. I haven't yet tried Jordanian food, and I really want to do that with you guys.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out a time, and I want to
Yes.
be introduced to it the right way. I love it when I'm introduced to a particular food from the
Yes.
people who know it. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
Sarah
Yes.
is the person to do that with. So thank you
Absolutely.
again,
Best it
man.
is.
Appreciate all of it, and yeah, keep it up. And I'll talk to y'all soon.
And I appreciate you. Thank you, Kyle. Really do.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.